Well, I've had some people asking about hoops, and I wanted to show you a couple of the hoops that I have. This is a hoop on a stand. Um, it's got advantages and disadvantages. This one, it actually folds up. This is a Grace brand. Um, the height is adjustable, so it can go up real high or down. That's about the height that I usually use it at, and it will adjust to bring it up to where you want to work at it, and you can tilt it and it rotates, but I find it very flimsy feeling in that adjusting it, I just can't get it to feel secure, and it turns hard, and I don't know, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but that's one of the hoops, and it's a square hoop that theoretically makes it easier for you to quilt the whole area that you're in. I also find, for myself, I prefer a round hoop. So I don't use this one very often because and I keep thinking, well, I'm going to try to use it more, and I'll get used to it, and I'll like it. But I've been trying to make myself like it for over a year now, and I just can't. The one that I like is the other one over there. That's the round hoop on a stand, and let me get the. So here's the ring that goes with the height is not adjustable, but this is just about the right height for me, and it will tilt and rotate, and I can make it go in any direction I want. The only thing that is in your way is, as you're working, is this one bar across the center. That other one had those 4 prongs, and so I'm always trying to figure out how to work around it. This one's less of a problem. It's big. This is 22 inches, and some people say that the hoop should not be any longer than between your elbow and your beginning of your hand. But I don't need to quilt all the way across because I can turn it. So, you know, I think it's okay. So this is the one I use the most often. But when I started quilting, and what I still do quite often, is I'll do a handheld hoop, especially if it's something I want to take somewhere with me and work on. So I wanted to show you how one of those works, and you can do just as nice a job quilting in a handheld hoop as you can in one in a stand, and even as, rather than having to make a big investment. The handheld hoops you can get pretty inexpensively, and let me show you. This is the one I use most often. This is actually, this one I bought at a garage sale, and it originally sold for $3.43. But they also sell them at lots of different craft type stores like Joanne Fabrics or places like that. Anyway, maybe $10, and you can do the whole quilt in one of these. So let me put a quilt in a hoop, and I'll show you. So I've got it in the hoop. The trick here is learning how to hold it, and I think a lot of people have this idea that you have to hold the hoop, and you don't. one of your hands, now I'm left-handed, so I put my right hand underneath because my left hand is going to hold the needle. So one of your hands goes underneath, and that's it. That's what holds the hoop. The other thing is, do you see how the fabric isn't tight as a drum? I need some slack in there. I keep it tighter than some do, but a little slack is good. So the hoop just sits, on your lap. You might need to, depending on how big it is, you might need to do some adjusting. But that's about it. Now I like to be able to sit back, so I'm not hunched over. So I give a little space. The hoop is sitting here. I don't have to hold it, but my hand is underneath, and that's going to be the thing that pushes up on the fabric so I can get my stitches to work. And I can quilt away. Now, one of the disadvantages of doing this in a hoop without a stand is that, as you can see, the quilt is covering me. So maybe not the best idea in the summer. Now what you can do, instead of keeping it all piled up on your lap, if you sit at a table, you can hoop this up and throw most of all this extra quilt, most of that could go up on the table, and you could just have this part in front of you, and that way all the quilt would be off of you. So that's another way to do it. But in the winter, sitting in the chilly house, it's nice to have a quilt all piled up on top of you. So often that's what I do when I'm quilting in the winter. But today it's over 90, and I'm not going to be able to sit here and do this for very long because of that. So I don't know if you can see, I am not making a big stressful deal about trying to hold on to the hoop with my hands. There's really no the weight of the quilt itself is all that's needed to hold it down. So you don't have to get all worried about, I'm just not coordinated enough to hold on to the hoop and do the quilting at the same time. It's really simple, and I find that the advantage of doing of using a hoop as opposed to what a lot of people do is they do the quilting with no hoop at all, and I don't advocate that, because I find that in order for that to work, you have to baste the life out of the quilt. So you might spend a whole day or more putting in 1,000,000 tons of basting stitches, because what the hoop is doing, it is holding a proper amount of tension on the quilt so that the quilting can happen, and it's keeping the layers from shifting. So if you look at some of the areas where I haven't quilted yet, I have a few safety pins holding it together, but I don't have to put in 87 million. I just have to keep it in place until I get to that area of the quilt. I put it in and I start in the middle and work my way out. I put the quilt in the hoop, and then I feel around with my hand on the back and make sure that it's all smooth and there's no puckers, and if there is, I'll give it a tug and straighten it all out. So any of the wrinkles and puckers, I'm working out towards the edges as I go. So I've never had a quilt, finished a quilt by hand where I've ever had a pucker in it, and that's because I can adjust it as I go. If the whole thing is basted to death, the way a lot of people do it, and if it works for them, that's fine. But it doesn't work for me. It drives me crazy. Anyway, if it's all basted together, a million, lines of basting stitches or 80,000 pins, well, the pins get in the way. I'm always, catching the thread on safety pins. But when I do it in a hoop, all the pins come out of the area that's hooped, and I can't catch the thread on anything. So to me it saves time, and it makes a better finish. So if I was to try this without a hoop, so here's a threaded needle and a non-hooped area. What I would have to do is still get my hand up under here and then try to figure out, how to get my bottom hand has to put pressure up on that fabric to get the stitches to happen. So basically I'd be doing something like this. I can't see what I'm doing. I want to see the whole area. So it's a choice for you to make, but I think you'll find that working in a hoop is a lot easier once you learn how to do it. The other advantage to doing it in a hoop rather than doing it just sort of in your hand is I don't have to mark as much. I have done a few markings to do this feather pattern. That's it. The rest of it I can do by eye, because I can see the whole area that I'm quilting. When I'm doing without a hoop, I don't have a flat surface where I can see the whole area that I'm working on. It's all kind of, by nature of the way it works, it's kind of bunched up. So anyway, now the thing with the hoop also is that it's easy to turn. When I get to a point where I want to go to a different area, I just give it a twist and keep on going. So while I most often use my hoop on a stand, there's nothing wrong with a plain old inexpensive handheld hoop. You can do beautiful work in one. As I said, my first I don't know, at least a dozen quilts were made in a really inexpensive wooden hoop from the craft store, and I started collecting them at yard sales after that. I have probably a dozen of them now, but I still have that first one. It was pretty chintzy, and I ended up having to tape it in a couple of places where the wood started to crack, but it still works. So the ones that are more specially designed, that they've tried to improve the basic old wooden structure. They make plastic versions that have a little bit of a groove in it that's supposed to keep the quilt from slipping. I don't like those. I've got a couple and I've tried them, and I don't like them because I do like to be able to slide the quilt in the hoop. And if you've got that groove around the edge, it keeps it from being able to slide. I want to be able to slide it because I might need to adjust the tension or change the position. It's easier without it. That's, again, up to you to try out a few and see what works best for you. But the the thing that I find with the handheld hoop that's, I think, the most beneficial is that it's very easy for me to adjust the height, and it's better on the back. When I work in the stand, I tend to hunch over more, and here, rather than hunching down, I bring it up, and it's helpful to have an arm on your chair, because then you can rest your elbow, and that holds the whole thing up higher, so it's more comfortable. Anyway, give quilting and a hoop a try, and in a future video, I'm going to show more of the actual quilting that I'm doing on this quilt, because it's going to be really cool. This is a old quilt top from the 1850s that's going to be a really neat finished quilt. So anyway, give it a try, and happy quilting.